Alrighty, welcome back to episode 10 of Hashing It Out with Javi. This is I guess we call it the Corona Lockdown Special, New Year's Eve edition. So things have gotten pretty gnarly around here when it comes to Corona, at least with the amount of infections and that kind of thing. I know it's affecting everybody differently. However, in my life, I've had multiple people, family members, brothers and sisters, friends, many people that I interact with on Instagram often, who have it now, and it's quite frankly getting a little bit out of hand, in my opinion. Now, as far as I don't care about your personal opinion. Well, let me rephrase that. Everyone has their own personal opinion, and it's valid, but to me personally, that, however you decide to live your life, whether you want to be at home or you want to be out, whatever you want to do, that's up to you. Me personally, I'm choosing to stay home this New Year's Eve just because I've been pretty responsible through this whole thing, and I think I'm going to continue to be that, just because I know and I interact with you guys hear that in the background? Yeah, it's like a war zone out here right now. There's a bunch of fireworks going off, and it's not even midnight yet. Sorry about that. I'm not in my soundproof studio, which we'll talk about in a minute. But in any case, back to the Corona and kind of what's going on. I interact with a lot of nurses pretty much every day, especially on Instagram, and there's a lot of them who asked me to share their story about the things they're going through. I haven't personally been sharing those stories just because I know when I do, I don't want people to disrespect them, because for some reason, I don't know why, or I guess I do know why, politics, but we have completely politicized the coronavirus kind of impact on society. So like, you have certain people who are like, oh, I'm so pro like mask, like you have to wear a mask, and if you don't, then someone's gonna yell at you for not having a mask on. You have the people who are like completely pro, like fucking, I don't give a shit about your mask or about how you feel. Like, we have to open up business and society and all those things. And the reality is, to me personally, I understand both. I've chosen not to live in fear. Like, in other words, I'm not sitting at home in a corner shaking in fear over this thing. And I do respect people, and I do respect businesses that want to open up. And that is absolutely critically important. There's a lot of problems today when it comes to shutting down business. I think all you have seen the reality of what's going on. And that's just a ton of small businesses that are dying left and right. I think something like, there's a really high percentage. I don't want to quote it because I don't know off the top of my head, and I don't have a source to cite, but there's a large number of small businesses, and a lot of you out there probably potentially have lost your own business. So the sad part is, while that's happening, Amazon, all these huge companies like Walmart, Target, these companies have made hundreds of billions of dollars during Corona, while the small businesses are just being completely slaughtered. So I understand what I'm saying is kind of, I guess it's a Libra in me. I always am kind of balancing things. And so I understand people who have that perspective, and I understand people who have the perspective of, I'm going to stay home and I'm going to protect myself. And, maybe my grandma, not me, but I'm just giving you an example. Maybe somebody has a grandmother who has comorbidities, or somebody who is going through some kind of treatment that maybe, affects their immune system, that kind of thing. So long story short is, the Corona is getting out of hand, and it's weird times. It's the end of 2020. This is the Corona New Year's edition podcast, Hashing Out with Javi podcast. So I'm going to start off by just talking about all the crazy things that happened in 2020. Not all, but I'm going to cover some of the highlights that I think are important things that, for the most part, I think a lot of us kind of skipped over some of these, just because the year has been absolutely insanely crazy. And then after I go through those, I'm going to touch on and cover some questions. So typically I ask people, on Instagram that I interact with every day, what kind of questions do you want me to answer on the podcast? And I get a whole bunch. So just so you guys know, there's a lot of questions that come in. I typically print them all out, and I just go through and kind of highlight. I don't highlight, but I just go through it as I'm talking and then printing out, looking at the sheet, and just pick a few off the top of my head because there's too many. I can't cover them all. It would take me hours, and I'm trying to keep these podcasts to an hour. I could easily go over, but I don't know if that's what you guys want or not. I know a lot of people are telling me they're trying to catch up, so I think I've been releasing too quickly. So this week I decided not to release a podcast for two reasons. One is, just so you guys know too, I didn't release the podcast this week just because there's two things going on. One is the holidays. I've been extremely busy. Just really busy with a lot of things, work, personal stuff, obviously the holiday season. And then also I'm in the middle of building out a permanent podcast studio here in my household, which is an entire dedicated office area space that will have video equipment, backdrops, a whole bunch of potential cool stuff. So we're going to make a permanent space and try to soundproof it as much as possible so that when Muggs is running in the background, you don't hear him, or when he's barking, you won't hear him. Muggs is my dog, by the way, for those of you listening. Also, so you don't hear the fireworks going off in the background. However, those are pretty loud. I don't know how much I can do about those, but I'm going to try to soundproof as much as possible. So I've been busy working on that. There's a lot of cool stuff to come. Videos coming. I have some really cool guests coming on this year. The only reason, again, why I'm not doing the guests today, I had some guests lined up. I actually had 4 people lined up for really cool topics and conversations. But I decided to, against a personal thing, just me personally, just to be responsible. I think right now what we're seeing with regards to like the coronavirus surge is pretty crazy, and I don't think people quite understand yet what's going on. So for example, what we're seeing right now is kind of the tail ends of all the Thanksgiving happenings. You know, everyone got together with their families and stuff, and then we had Christmas a few weeks later, and so all this is going to compound, and then now we're going to have New Year's tonight, and all these things, these dates are going to compound, and we see the results from these about 2 to 3 weeks later. So by like mid to end of January, we should know kind of where we're at with viral infection and kind of who it's infecting. And again, I respect everybody's opinion, so don't come at me if you're upset about me being personally careful. I'm not being necessarily careful for myself. While I do think that I do have things like minor asthma and other stuff in my life that could potentially affect me, I'm not too terribly concerned about myself. I'm concerned about others. So, and I always just want to. I am always kind of other people first, you know. So, with that said, let's start by talking about the crazy stuff that happened in 2020. This year started off crazy. A lot of us just forgot because it's been a constant kind of roller coaster ride, and we've all kind of forgot about all the crazy things that started this year off. So I'm going to read off a list. I actually typed this up because I don't normally type up much stuff on this podcast, but I made a list because there were so many things that happened this year, rather. And it's freaking crazy. It's absolutely, like I said, it's just been a roller coaster ride pretty much for all of us. And I think everybody's kind of feeling it. Everyone's kind of stressed out. And so let's talk about this. And here we go. So here's a list of things that happened this year. So starting in January, we had the Australian wildfires. Like that entire, it's like a continent, right? Like it was just on fire. Like it was huge, right? It's crazy. Like it was just up in flames. We forgot about that. January 3rd. This is one that I think people that don't follow politics or don't follow like kind of what's going on around the world just kind of skipped over. And it was very pre-COVID. So once COVID happened, people just completely forgot about it. But oh my God, this is a huge one. January 3rd, Trump ordered the killing of an Iranian major general named Qasem Soleimani. So Soleimani was like the highest ranking general in Iran. And basically, Trump dusted this guy with a drone in Iraq. So he came to visit Iraq to have some talks. And it was suspected the talks he was having were going to be anti-American talks. And he was going to kind of set up some attacks and stuff on American interest, and he has been a very key kind of high level, one of the highest, if not the highest military ranking person in Iran. Now, keep in mind, Iran is like our sworn enemy, right? Iran, we suspect them as being a nuclear nation. I mean, if they could wipe us off the map, they would. So we dusted this guy. Imagine someone coming here and being like, "You're top general in America, in the United States." You know, he visited Mexico for Rosarito for a week in a party, and Iran just come and dusts him with a drone. Like, those are war events, right? So this very well could have sparked off World War III, but like people didn't even pay attention to it, and it was just like, whoa, okay, cool, we're gonna move on from that. It was a huge, huge event, and let's not forget that Iran has not fucking forgot what we did, and they've not forgotten a couple of things, because recently Israel used a mechanized vehicle, I think it was like 2 or 3 months ago, to assassinate one of their nuclear scientists. So Iran had like a very high-ranking nuclear scientist who's helping them develop nuclear weapons and stuff. Israel sent like some kind of robotic car. It's still not fully known, and I think it's not known because it's kind of like a high-level, think of it like CIA kind of thing. So, but the car had some kind of like autonomous technology in it. Autonomous meaning like AI, artificial intelligence, and it had some kind of like machine gun or something in it that was robotic. It wasn't, there wasn't a human there firing it. Like someone came up on some robotic car that drove up on this guy's car and just put him in fucking pieces. And so Iran's not forgetting the things that we're doing. That's both the United States and Israel. So those are very kind of things to pay attention to. Moving on from that crazy stuff that we just skipped over January 3rd and then all the way up to until recently when it comes to Israel kind of taking that guy out, a nuclear scientist. January 31st, Kobe and Gianna, they died in a helicopter crash, right? That was crazy. I think that affected so many people. I mean, if you guys saw the outpour of support from people in LA that just came down to the Staples Center that night, and it was crazy. I mean, Kobe was an absolute legend, right? I mean, there's not many people like him in this world, and you know, and then his daughter dies, and his daughter's just young, and it was crazy. So Kobe and Gianna, I mean, that was a crazy thing for all of us. We just, you know, unfortunately, COVID came right after that, a month or two after that, and we kind of like just forgot about that. And I don't think we forgot about it, but just the news of COVID and the impact of COVID just overtook everything. And so rest in peace, Kobe and Gianna. And that was just a crazy thing, man. We all want to believe that, like, we're all, I don't know if we want to believe it, but I think the human kind of, human nature makes us very good at kind of negating the fact that we're just like this gelatinous meatball that is very prone to being killed by a lot of things. So when we see like a hero like that die and his daughter die with him at a young age, it really impacts us. So that was a crazy thing. February 24th, Harvey Weinstein. This is a guy who was taken down by the Me Too movement, right? He was finally convicted, officially convicted of rape and a bunch of other sexual crimes. He was an absolute pig in Hollywood. But if I'm being honest, there's a lot of people in Hollywood today that are there because of him, and they decided to take his offer. So, I mean, that's crazy. What gives, right? So Harvey Weinstein is an absolute pig. It's disgusting. He used his power to make women bend to his will sexually so that he can put them in movies, because he had the right, or the ability, not the right, it's the wrong word, the ability to elevate their careers. But there is a lot of women today now, and that's coming out, by the way, that accepted his deal. Like, you know, maybe he said like, hey, you give me head, cool, I'll get you in this movie. And like, a lot of people did that. So while he needs to be in jail and he's a pig, the people that did that kind of stuff too, to elevate themselves in their career, they should also be outlined, in my opinion, too. That means society should say, hey, you know, guys like this can continue to operate because of people like you too. So just my 2 cents. Don't murder me over it. Again, he's a pig. He should be in jail. He's going to die in jail. That's just the reality. He's a very old, frail guy now. March 11th, coronavirus officially declared an official pandemic. March 11th was the day all of our lives changed. I remember watching TV with my son. We were having dinner. Actually, I was making dinner. And I remember watching, I think it was Fox News or something from LA. And Mayor Garcetti, and a few other people were talking, and the words they were using were just so deep and so they just cut to the soul. And I said, and I remember looking at my son and saying, hey, this is it, man. This is a different thing. Our lives are going to change. And I knew this because from previous things in my life, just dealing with politics and wars and all kinds of stuff going throughout my lifetime, or just not dealing with them, but being familiar with those kinds of things. I remember looking at my son thinking, oh man, he's 17. And like, now he wasn't 17 at the time, he was 16, about to turn 17. I remember looking at him and saying, hey, you're not ever going to forget this moment. Like, this is one of those things. It's kind of like when 9/11 happened, you know? The words they were using was very much a global scale. This is something that is not right, that is wrong, that we're going to have a problem with. And it felt very like 9/11 again to me with respects to, like, life is different. And I look at those things, and I remember telling my kid that night, actually, we were talking, and I said, look, in life, you have these things, these events that happen, whether it's somebody who dies or there's a 9/11 or a war that starts or this. And those things to me are kind of like checkpoints in a video game. Like, if all you gamers out there, like if you're playing a video game, you get to a checkpoint. Like, once you're there, you're there. You can never go back. Like, it's a checkpoint. It's a checkpoint in your brain. And you will always remember and look back like, oh, yeah, man, fucking 2020, man. When Garcetti was saying that news fucking, you know, he did that news release and he was saying all this crazy stuff. And he said something, I remember he said something like, life will forever be different. And I thought, oh shit, it's one of those. Like, it's a checkpoint. This is a checkpoint. And I just remember describing that to my kid, like, this is a checkpoint in life, man. And so that was crazy. Moving on, March 13th, Breonna Taylor. She was shot, you know, dead in her home by police. There's a lot of, obviously, there's a lot of stuff about that case that I can't speak on. I only know so much about it. I know that there was people that say that there was a no-knock warrant. No-knock warrant means that you can't just come to somebody's house and break down their door and expect them not to defend themselves. So if you come to my fucking house, cop, FBI, CIA, I don't give a fuck who you are. If you break down my door and I'm asleep, I'm always armed, so I'm going to shoot back. And so her boyfriend shot back. I think he was shot and she was killed. And so there's some kind of, it's up in the air. I don't want to speak too deeply on it, but what I do know is that I think there's some gray area whether or not it was a no-knock warrant, which tells me that probably it was a no-knock warrant, because if it was a warrant where they knocked, why wouldn't the officials just say that? But again, I don't have too much information. I haven't studied it deep enough to talk into that, to talk confidently enough to say that this was a no-knock warrant or not. I just think there's some gray area there. And I think no-knock warrants are probably going to go away. I think they're going to have to start knocking and saying, hey, you know, announcing themselves. Hey, we're the police department, we're the FBI, we're the CIA, we're the sheriff's department, ATF, whatever it is. They're probably going to have to start knocking, because no-knock warrants are pretty lame. I mean, you can't just bust into somebody's fucking house and expect them not to defend themselves. I mean, let me just put it this way. I'm a pretty stand-up guy. I have a very stand-up life. I don't deal with any kind of thing that's illegal or not at all. So, but if I put myself in that person's shoes and I did have something to defend my property, or even if I didn't have to worry about like being a drug dealer, like even if I just had my wife, right? Let's say, for example, I had a wife who had a lot of expensive jewelry, or I had a business and I had, you know, money in my household every night before I went to the bank the next day, whatever it may be. I want the ability to protect my family, you know? And so I don't know about how that case is going to go, but rest in peace to her. That was a crazy one that really shook the country quite a bit. All right, moving on. The next one, March 16th, stock markets. The stock market crashed hard. And this is one thing that a lot of people didn't really pay attention to. And although I knew what was going on and I paid attention to it, I wish I could have did more to... I wish I would have done more to reap the benefits of it, because a lot of people don't understand. Like, when the stock market's crashing, yeah, it's horrible. A lot of people lose money, but the reality is when the markets go down like that, that's when you buy. You don't buy when things are expensive. You buy stocks when they're down, when they're really down in the dumps. A rich friend of mine once told me that the time to invest is when there's blood in the streets. And that's an ancient quote from, I think, the 1800s. And what that means is, like, when things are really bad is when you buy stuff, because if you have enough money to buy stuff at that point, those things are going to be sold at the cheapest they're ever going to be sold at. And then 10 years from then, 20 years from then, they're going to be worth so much money. So the stock market tanked. I can't recall which one. It was the Dow. Which one was it? I can't remember. One of them tanked harder in one day than it ever had in the history of itself. And it was crazy. Like, so everyone's like, holy shit. But here's the thing. While everyone else is screaming and crying and being worried about stuff, the rich and the wealthy and the people who understand money were like, oh, it's time to make money. Because if you had a stock, for instance, in, I don't know, say Disney, right? Or Netflix or whatever one of these big companies are. If you had a stock in one of those companies who tanked that day, say that stock was worth $400 a stock and it went down to, say, $100 a stock. I mean, you just bought that stock at 25%, right? You know it's going to go back up at some point. So those stocks tank. So I'm not an expert by any means when it comes to investing, and I'm not offering any kind of consultation. I'm not offering any kind of like advice, rather, when it comes to investing. But the key reality is when things are bad, when there's crazy wars that happen, when there's economic collapses, all those things, like if you have a little bit extra change in your pocket, learn how to invest it. That's when you invest. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't ride the wave quite quickly this time, or quick enough, just because, for one, I'm not a stock market expert. I do invest in the stock market, but I'm actually just about to get some kind of education when it comes to that, because I feel that there's a lot of potential there. And the next time this happens, and it will happen again, you guys, the markets go up and down. 9/11. Now 2008, when the real estate market crashed, markets crash all the time, and when they do is when you invest. So what I suggest is, no, I'm not even going to say that. Just next time, pay attention to when things are bad, follow the markets, follow what they're worth, and know when to invest, because you invest when it's low, not when it's high. So, and what I can tell you, without giving advice, is it's still not too late to jump in on this kind of a surge, because the stock market has bounced back and it's going to continue to bounce back. Once the vaccines hit and people get back to life and society and things get back to normal, which probably won't happen until 2022. I think this year is kind of a wash. This year is going to be more fear mongering and, I say fear mongering, but that's part of it because the news does do that. But also the reality of what Corona is. Corona's already mutated. For those of you that don't know, there's a UK strain of Corona. The UK strain of Corona has already mutated to a new strain that is more contagious, but not more viral. So what that means is, like, it's easier to get it, but it's not more deadly. So that means a lot more people can get this thing, but it's not more deadly. But in any case, stock markets are huge. Pay attention to it. I'm going to be doing a podcast. I'm trying to find the right person to do it with, a podcast to talk about financials and that kind of stuff. Just because I think more Latinos, especially Latinos, man, we are not in tune. A lot of us are not. Some of us are, but a lot of us are not in tune with how to kind of dynamically invest our investments. So, we're always just buy property, or we just start a business or whatever it is. But you have to kind of be able to spread that wealth around in different buckets, because if something happened, you want to make sure one of those buckets can survive. So in any case, I'm working on that. And it's kind of hard to find the right person for that, just because everybody wants to get paid big money for their advice, which I think is okay. I mean, if you have knowledge of something and you can spread that knowledge and teach people, that's good. But I also think, like, for me personally, like, if I had knowledge, I would just spread it to people and be like, come on, man, let me help you out. Because I think everybody needs some kind of mentor in some way to get to the next level. And mentor may be the wrong word, but just someone who can educate them or help them understand what matters. All right, moving on, because there's a lot to get through here. Mid-March, we all ran out of toilet paper. Remember the toilet paper craze? And then shortly after toilet paper, you couldn't wipe your ass, and you had to find, like, hand sanitizers and that kind of stuff. Remember Lysol? You couldn't find any of that stuff, right? That was crazy, right? That was mid-March, you guys. That was 9 months ago. It's crazy. Then March 20th, the release of the Tiger King. You guys remember the Tiger King? Jesus Christ, that was amazing entertainment. It was actually what we needed. The Tiger King at that moment, because society was so crazy at that moment, the Tiger King is actually what we needed. And the Tiger King was kind of like a distraction from what we were going through. And we were all just having a good old time with it, right? And I guess what I can say is fuck Carol Baskins. All right, moving on. April 25th, on my son's birthday. This is another crazy one that people didn't really pay attention to, but it was a global event. Or actually, rather not a global event, but rather an event that garnered global kind of attention. So, Kim Jong-Un, I don't know if you guys know who this is, but he is the leader of North Korea. Randomly out of nowhere, there was reports that he had died and he just was gone, dead. And we're like, what? He's kind of out of weight and he's kind of a weird dude. He's kind of like a dorky, kind of lame, chubby guy. But he does run a country, and it's a country who is another sworn enemy of ours. And we were like, well, where'd he go? Is he dead? Is he not dead? And it turns out that, like, what we think he did is he kind of faked his death to see who in his circle of trust would kind of want to take over. And I think I don't think what it looks like is that people think that he was just kind of trying to weed out the snakes in the grass. You know, when you cut the grass, right, the snakes appear, right? We all know we have people who act like our friends and try to be cool with us and, you know, blow smoke up our asses. But, you know, there's a difference between your real friends, your party friends, and friends that kind of come around. And I think what he was trying to do is, I think, again, okay, I'll say it. I think he was trying to just weed out the snakes in the grass, which is crazy. He's still alive today, by the way. He just did some weird, shady shit. And that was weird. Why would he do that? If you don't know the history between us and North Korea, you should know we had a war with them. After the North Korean War was crazy. I think it was in between World War II and Vietnam. A lot of Americans died there. It's the war kind of that we forgot as a country because it was a war that was fought kind of like for nothing in a sense. But they are, again, like North Korea they've kind of been a sworn enemy, but Trump actually did a really good job with bridging that gap, which was crazy. We should all, you know, if Trump did anything, he did that. It's crazy, man. Anyways, I don't want to talk about Trump. Moving on. April 27th. This one, to me, is probably one of the craziest ones. April 27th. The Pentagon released 3 videos confirming UFOs. Literally UFOs. And we talk about UFOs like it's alien life and this and that or whatever. And UFOs just means an unidentified flying object, which means there could be a country that has the better technology than us that's flying something in our airspace that we don't know what it is and we can't track it. We don't know how to catch it. We don't know how to shoot it down. That's a UFO. It doesn't necessarily mean alien life or alien contact with us as a nation. But what was weird about these things, and this is one thing that, again, this is one of the ones that just flew over our fucking heads, and I don't understand why most Americans don't look at this and go, what the fuck, is the UFOs that were flying in these videos. And by the way, some of these were over San Diego here, local in Southern California. And they were spotted on radar and on video by very well-respected high-level pilots. And I think it was like Captain Graybird. I can't remember his name. But anyways, these crafts, is what we'll call them, were doing things from a physical perspective, from physics, right? So we know physics. Everyone knows physics, right? Every action has an opposite and equal reaction to it, that kind of thing. We know what gravity, you know, the weight of gravity and how gravity affects things. And we know all these things, and we can measure these things. These are all measurable when it comes to physics and math. Well, these particular craft were doing things that defy our understanding of fucking physics. So, it's insane. And at the very minimum, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google Pentagon released videos of confirmed UFOs. It looks like very grainy, you know, video or whatever, but the Pentagon absolutely admitted to saying that there's UFOs in our airspace, which means 2 things. One is, there's a country out there who has better technology than us that we cannot track, kill, or make sure that it doesn't harm us. And or there's aliens out there that we don't fucking know about. What do I think about that? After watching the videos and after doing a lot of research on it, the one thing that's most perplexing to me is the fact that there are craft out there that are flying in our airspace that defy the physics that we know of as today. Now, there are a lot of UFO conspiracy theorists out there who talk about people like Bob Lazar and other things. If you don't know what I'm talking about, again, Google it. Go to YouTube. Bob Lazar. There's a great documentary out there about Bob Lazar on Amazon Prime. I think you might be able to get it on Netflix too. I could be wrong. DM me if you're interested. But people that talked about like Area 54, we talk about that as like it's a joke. But this guy says, hey, I was working on this stuff 7 years ago, and there's a lot of people who confirm what he's saying. And when I say the stuff, I mean a type of matter that allows jet propulsionary systems to be able to work like what we saw in those videos. So I think we're gonna know pretty quickly here in the next 6 months, because maybe a lot of people don't know, but when they pass a COVID bill, which was their stimulus checks that are going to come out, part of that said in 6 months, within 180 days, which is about 6 months, they have to release information on UFOs. And I think there's going to be a huge drop of information in the next few months about basically like UFOs in our airspace, or maybe potentially modern technology that we didn't know. So keep this in mind. Stealth technology has been around for a long time. It's been around for a long time. We think it's like a new thing. Well, it's really started. Remember the first Iraq war in the late 80s, early 90s? We had stealth technology back then, right? We had the Blackbird SR, I think it's SR-71. Those plans for those stealth technology airplanes that people didn't know were in the sky, that were flying, who got God knows how many, hundreds of thousands of feet above the ground rather, were drawn up in like the late 60s. And so like we didn't know about them till like 30, 40 years later. Just consider what's out there. I think what's going to happen is we're probably going to have like a drop of information that like, oh, well, we have these things and we've been working on this kind of matter and this kind of jet propulsionary system or whatever it is. It's probably going to come out from either our government or another government. But anyways, 2021 in about 6 months is going to be fucking amazing and interesting, because we're going to learn a lot of stuff, or we're going to be super scared, because it's either going to be like, this is a technology we have and we just want to let you know about it, or our partner governments that we work with have and we know about it, and or this is UFOs and we don't know about it and we're fucking scared, or they're UFOs and we've been dealing with them like Black and Men style. So call it what you want to call it. That's crazy stuff. It's probably the craziest thing that came out of 2020 and no one's talked about at all. May 4th, funny one, murder hornets. Everyone's worried about the murder hornets. The murder hornets are going to come get us. We're all going to die from the murder hornets. They're buzzing around everywhere. Dumb shit. May 25th, a more deeper one that is more profound, that is going to change the social mindscape of America, I think, which is that's when George Floyd was murdered. And I say murdered because anyone can look at that video and see that he was murdered. There's a lot of conspiracy theories around that too. There are videos that show that he had something in his mouth that looked like a pill and all kinds of other crazy shit. And if you think I'm crazy, again, just go look it up. There's videos out there that think that he was potentially on drugs and he swallowed something that made him overdose and whatever else. To me, you put your knee on a man's neck for 8 or 9 minutes and he dies, that's your fucking fault, whether he's on drugs or not. So the aftermath of that was a country kind of erupting into an entire violent protest, right? And it wasn't just our country. I mean, violent protests erupted all over this country, but all over the world. And that was something that was unprecedented. And when that was happening, we completely forgot that there was like this viral pandemic going on, right? Everyone's like, oh, worried about the pandemic. But there's people like hanging out in like masses of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people just destroying cities. And a lot of them were not using masks. And it was like, oh, there's a pandemic going on, but no one cared, and it was just an interesting time is all I'm saying. Those police officers will know their fate probably sometime this year or next year. Rest in peace to George Floyd. I don't have a dog in this fight other than saying that I watched a man be murdered, and that's fucking not right, and people should pay for that. Do I agree with destroying property and stuff over that? I can tell you, as a man that comes from a family that has a hardworking small business, that if somebody did that to my business that my family owns, I'd be really upset. But I understand the emotions behind it. And time is going to tell, the outcome of that particular situation. And again, just rest in peace to him, man. That's some bullshit. I think that's going to change the mindscape of our society, and that's good. I mean, if it brings upon better regulation around police officers and how they conduct their day-to-day activities, I'm okay with that. If it stops police officers from creating a safe society, that's another discussion, because I think the two discussions are right. One is, do we hold the officers accountable for their actions? Excuse me, guys. I'm sorry, I'm burping here. Do we hold the officers accountable for their actions, and or do we just defund them and not give them shit? In my personal opinion, the defunding conversation is just an absolute. It's the wrong path to go. I have some strong words to say, but I'm gonna hold them back. And let me explain that to you. Defunding the police is probably the wrong thing. The police need more funding, because if they are putting people into power that have the ability to choose whether somebody lives or dies, and they don't have the right tools to segregate the right people that should be in that job, or choose the right people that should be in that job, that's a problem. Let me say it this way. So, I have some friends that are in law enforcement, and when they were explaining to me the things they have to go through just to be, things they have to go through just to get into law enforcement, it was insane. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. I sat here with a friend, smoked a cigar, had some drinks, had some whiskey with them, and I was shocked at the amount of things that law enforcement officers have to go through. Every law enforcement officer has to go through to get into a force where they're going to work at, whether it's local PD or sheriffs or whatever else. And I was shocked, and I said, "Well, how does this guy get through?" I couldn't get that answer, but to me, the answer is not taking money away from that process; it's giving it more money. We should be choosing the right people. In other words, I would rather spend $100,000 on finding the right person for that job than no money, and I would also rather spend $100,000 in training the right person for that job, so that he has the right skills and tool sets to be able to de-escalate things, versus just shooting somebody when they feel scared. And dude, again, that's a job, and I'm not judging here by any means. I have law enforcement in my family who I respect, and recently, by the way, who I respect, and I have law enforcement friends who I love and care about dearly who are in law enforcement. I'm not, the decisions they have to make every day that are life or death situations, I don't have to make. And anybody who judges that, sits on their couch like a fat ass eating Cheerios, watching TV, and fucking judging that, you're an asshole, man. Because that's a decision you don't have to make, and that's a decision that those guys have to go out every fucking day of their lives, and knowingly that they could end up on TV just like any of the other cops that shoot somebody, and they could just be made a news story. Because I tell you what, this shit happens all the time. George Floyd is one man of fucking tons of men out there who have lost their lives at the hands of law enforcement. But he's the one that the media decided to blow up for whatever reason. And I'm not negating his life. I'm not saying his life is more minimal than any others. I'm just saying this shit has been happening for a long time. And I'm sure that there are some that make sense as far as this officer was trying to protect his life. And I'm sure there's a lot that don't make sense. That officer was fucking scared, or he shouldn't have been the officer. And what I'm talking about is money can help that piece of the officers that shouldn't be there. So in other words, defunding, I think, is just it's a bad path to go down. I think we need more money to find the right people to wear that badge. You know, we all know men in life who are men amongst men. We all know that badass dude who has a good ass heart. We all know piece of shit guys, if you give them a gun, are piece of shit guys. So, and I don't mean to say men or women, because there's women in the job as well, but we all know men and women in life who, there's some amazing women out there who are like your Thea, who's loving and caring. You know, if she had a gun, she would do the right thing. So all I'm saying is defunding it, to me personally, is absolutely ignorant. Funding these police officers so that they can find the right people to do the right job, and who can be the ones that should be out there in the streets, protecting our streets, and that's everything to me. So anyways, moving on. And then in September, homeschooling. Everyone went back to school. Homeschooling, man. Parents. I'm lucky. My son is a senior this year. Which, well, I'm not lucky. I'm sad for him because he doesn't get to experience all the cool things that happens when you're a senior. But I guess it could be worse, and that's how I explained it to him. But for the parents of young kids, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, do I feel for you. However, now you all know all the times your teachers have been complaining to you in parent-teacher conference about your kid being a little shit. Now you know what they're talking about. And what's even more insanely crazy to me is 20 years from now, 20 fucking years from now, we're going to look back at this point in time and go, holy shit, the people that are running this country were raised and taught by drunk parents. There's a bunch of parents out there drinking wine and shit by the time they're 11 o'clock because it's insane. And now you all know how tough it is to raise a kid. So next time you're going to a parent-teacher conference, after all this shit's over with, respect the teachers a little bit more. The teachers do a lot of shit. They've always done a lot of shit, man. And I've always been one of those parents. When a teacher came to me, my son knows this, and my son, we've talked about this quite often, is whenever he was in trouble when he was younger, the first thing I asked the teacher is, I don't want to hear you, Chris. I want to hear the teacher. I'll know because I'm a grown-ass man with good-ass ability to detect bullshit in people if the teacher's bullshitting or if you're bullshitting. And to be honest, there was times where I caught my kid being the shithead, and there was a couple times when I caught the teacher being a shithead. There's some shithead teachers out there. But at least we all know now what teachers go through. So there was that. September 18th. This is a big one. This is a big one for especially people that are progressive, democratic on that side of the stuff. What I call Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? RBG, the notorious RBG. She passed away, man. That was huge. And for all the people that are angry at Trump for all the shit he did and all the racist shit he did, you guys, if you knew politics and if you knew how our court system works, should be more upset about the fact that he was able to put in, I think it was 3 Supreme Court justices. So he really completely imbalanced the Supreme Court. So now the Supreme Court is very conservative. So all you people who are angry about dumb shit like the president, like Trump, Trump was more powerful than you thought. He was way more powerful than you thought. He put in Supreme Court justices now. Anthony Scalia died. He replaced him. Ginsburg. So in other words, I think right now, I think there's 9 Supreme Court justices, and I think it's like 6-3 now, or 5-4 maybe. In any case, the number one thing Trump did that will continue to reign superior for generations. Because here's one thing a lot of people don't know: when a Supreme Court justice comes into play, when they put someone into that particular, when they appoint them as a justice of Supreme Court, they can stay there until they die or until they decide to leave. And most of them stay there until they die. So we have a very conservative Supreme Court justice today. And that's all thanks to Trump. And I say thanks to Trump because not that I agree with it. There's a huge unbalance now. But the Supreme Court is one of the it's the highest court in this fucking country. It's the highest court in this world. They have a huge impact. And so everyone who's complaining and crying about Trump and politics and all this other bullshit, that's the one thing he did that you should absolutely be upset about. You should absolutely be upset about. I just note it. All right, and the last one I'm going to touch on this, and then we're going to go to the questions, is the U.S. presidential election on November 3rd. Boy, was that a absolute mindfuck. You know, in the beginning, it was like, oh, Trump's going to win. And I was like, holy shit, he might win. And then, like, a few hours in, every time I've been, since I've been alive, that I've watched a presidential election, like by like 11 o'clock midnight, you know, not this one, because Trump didn't want to give up. It was insane. And at the end of the day, what happened is Trump lost. And there's a lot of people out there who are upset when I say this, and that's okay. All my friends out there who are conservative. I love you guys too, man, but he lost it outright. Voter fraud and all the fraud stuff we've been talking about, we wanted that to be a thing because that's what he pitched, because he is very good at aligning people with himself by saying this is a bad thing, they cheated, or this is a bad person, that person's a piece of shit, or whatever he says. His followers followed him, and they followed him into this deep dark path. And they still, up until recently, I'm still seeing people talking about, well, no, he won. Now, the flip side of that is people who say that there was no voter fraud. Fuck off. There's voter fraud across the board. However, was there enough voter fraud for Trump to overturn the vote? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Voter fraud is as simple as something. This is a friend of mine, and I won't throw her name out there, but you know who you are if you're listening. She's still part of a podcast. She was talking on her own podcast about how her family is conservative. She's not very conservative, but her mail-in ballot came home, and her mom mailed it out for her. And she's like, her mom's like, well, what do you want? She's like, I don't care, whatever you want. So her mom obviously is conservative. She was registered as a Republican, and her mom responded for her. That's voter fraud. And so little things like that, which you think that's a one-off case, right? Like this may be like 1,000 people that do that, right? Who knows? I don't know the number, but voter fraud was not something that was across the board that we can absolutely track or count. Now, was this election absolutely questionable? Questionable might be a strong word, but I've never in my life that I've been involved in politics, not involved in politics, sorry, that I have been interested in politics, have seen anything like this before in my life. They made it very clear in the Democratic states that they were going to do everything they possibly could to get Trump out of fucking office. I've never seen that, which tells me that our country is in such a divided state that it's unhealthy. It's an unhealthy divided state. It's gross. And it's just weird. We're in a weird place, and we got to change that. I've been saying that for a long time. It's not okay. But what I will say is, as much as I dislike, Biden is the president. Let me say it this way. Biden's the president. I don't know a single person in my life who voted for Biden because they liked Biden, or because they liked his policy, or because they liked what they thought he was going to do for them. Let's be honest. Biden signed the 1994 crime bill into place. The crime bill is one of the bills that incarcerated more black men than any other bill in recent times, in generations. Not generations, but in decades. And the crime bill, I mean, what he did, it was absolutely disgusting. If you haven't seen that, just, again, Google it, right? Kamala Harris, another person who we voted into office, thinking just because she's part of Biden. Here's the great thing about that. I don't know how many of you follow politics, how many of you watch the debates. I'm not talking about the presidential debates. I'm talking about the primary debates. Primaries meaning who is going to be voted in for particular, whether it's left or right, ability to run for president. When Kamala ran against Joe Biden, this is just months ago, by the way. Everyone forgot about it because it's Corona. When she ran against Joe Biden in the primary, she called him a racist. I don't know how many times. And if you think I'm kidding, just, again, go to YouTube or Google Kamala calls Biden racist, and you will find it. But as soon as he became the primary ticket runner for the Democratic Party, all of a sudden he's not a racist anymore. People, don't fall for the bullshit is all I'm saying. We're much smarter than that. We have to, and if we're not smarter than that, then we have to fucking get smarter than that. I'm tired of people not helping us out. When I say us, I mean Latinos, I mean people of color. Stop being fucking stupid. Stand up and stop being stupid and educate yourselves. This is all a big sham. With that said, it's pretty fucking cool. As much as I absolutely 100% dislike Kamala Harris, 100%. Do not like her. I think she's gross. I think it's gross that you can call somebody a racist, but just because they want you to be the vice president, all of a sudden you jump on the bandwagon. At least there is a woman vice president for the first time in the history of this country. Women, you've made it. You've made it. 100%. You've made it. There's a woman vice president, and it's not just a woman. It's a woman of color. And when I say color, it's not get it twisted. She's not, we love to say she's black and all this other stuff, and that's fine. She is partially black, but she's half Indian, right? And why aren't Indians getting their fucking praise here? I have a lot of Indian friends who deserve their fucking praise. They work their fucking asses off in this country. They work their asses off in their country. There's 1 billion Indians in their country. That's 1 in 7 people in this fucking world are Indian. And they're not getting their praise because we're continually saying that she's black, she's black, she's black. I get it. She's half Indian too, man. Let's give the Indians their praise. And her dad was Jamaican, they call it Afro-Jamaican. I think it was kind of something to say like African-American. But, man, what an amazing time to be alive. It's crazy, right? We're living in amazing times. And I'm excited for 2021, everybody. As much as everyone's kind of dreading what happened in 2020, 2021 is going to be exciting, exciting, exciting. All right, I'm going to now move on to the question answer portion of the podcast. And there's some good questions here. There's some silly questions, but we're going to continue it. This podcast will probably go longer than an hour, just FYI. But this is questions from people who follow me on Instagram, who interact with me. I have a lot of cool followers who I hate using that term followers. A lot of cool people who interact with me daily, almost every day. Not every day, almost every day, pretty much, on Instagram. And it's pretty cool. So here we go. I'm going to do my best to answer. Some of these are tough questions. I just printed them out, so I'm kind of just going through them willy-nilly. I don't have any kind of rhyme or reason. I just print them out and just go through them. Some of them I'll look at and go, nah, not a good question. Some of them I'll look at and go, okay, good question. Some of them I'll just answer or whatever. Weird one. How to obtain a peaceful divorce. I don't know. I've never been married, but I've dealt with the in-court baby mama drama. So I think I guess in divorce you can't, because divorce is an absolute legal thing, right? So when it comes to like raising kids in a mixed family or in mixed households, rather, multiple households, you cannot include the courts, which is probably the easiest thing if you could be adults about it. But when it comes to divorce, I don't know. I guess the best way you could probably go about a peaceful divorce is saying, hey, I don't know if you're a male or female, or I don't know. You can have it. The only way probably is you can have everything. I'm not going to fight for it, because when it comes to divorce, there's that whole kind of 50-50 factor based upon how long you've been married. There is alimony. Alimony affects different people. I know women who pay alimony. I know actually 4 women who have to pay alimony, which is crazy. And I know a gamut of fucking men who have been fucked over by alimony. So, it really depends. I guess that's a question that really depends on your situation. All right, moving on to the next one. Interracial dating. Oh, dude, it's fucking 2020. I don't think that's even a question, at least as long as you live in a city that's like, well, there's a lot of people. I mean, like, unless you're living in bumfuck, Alabama, out in the swamp somewhere. Not swamp, I guess I'm on swamps, but, somewhere out in the middle of some fucking country backwood place. I don't think interracial dating is a problem. Dude, love is love. If you're in love with the person who doesn't have your skin color, so be it. Whatever. It's 2020, man. Go get yours. And at the end of the day, do what you got to do, because at the end of the day, no one's going to give a fuck. They're going to judge you anyhow, man. So, COVID depression. Hey, man, this is a good one. So, I've been talking about depression and those kinds of things in this podcast quite a bit. COVID depression is real. It's. I'm not an expert by any means, but I can tell you this: we're now almost a year in, and I think the real sort of fallout of this depression is going to start showing its ugly face. I think people have been able to kind of hunker down for a bit, as most as they can. But I think the people that have just been kind of surviving on the edge are probably going to start having issues, because we can't. We're humans. We have to interact with each other. Even sometimes when that's, like I deal with anxiety, right? Like I could be at a grocery store just buying groceries and I can have a weird anxiety attack for no reason. Now I'm not running around the store acting weird, but internally I feel a little kind of anxious, and I can control that because I've learned how to deal with that as best as I can throughout the years that I've dealt with it. But being stuck at home this long, I think that stuff compounds, and I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know how to even talk about that. I think maybe we should have, or I should have, somebody who can come on here and talk about mental health. That would actually be fucking amazing. COVID depression is absolutely real. I've been starting to feel over the last few days kind of like, oh, this kind of sucks. I mean, I've been really good, like not feeling down, about this. I've just been kind of like, I'm going to make the best of it, because to me, it could be worse. I have all this stuff in my house. I have all these things that entertain me. But lately it's been kind of like, this shit sucks, man. When is it going to end? So I think without having an end date on it, an expiration date on what's going on, it could get worse out there. So I guess the only piece of advice I can give people out there when it comes to that question is pay attention to your loved ones, your friends, your families, people you love. people you care about. Even somebody you haven't talked to in a long time, man, just reach out to them. Right now is the time for you to reach out to people and be like, hey, I care about you, you know? So do that. It's important. New Year's resolutions. I don't really believe in New Year's resolutions because I believe in goals and I set goals throughout the year. Because I'm not going to wait until January 1st to be like, I'm going to lose those 5 pounds, or I want to do X, Y, or Z to buy this house, or whatever it is. Like, I just think, you know what? I'm tired of people trying to put a time frame on things. Like, I have to do this by then to do X, Y, or Z. It's kind of like what people say, like, a good example of this is people that come to me and say, I'm not ready to be married, or I'm not ready to have a kid, you know? And I'm like, oh, fuck. Those people just don't understand the way life works, because the reality is when you're ready, life will make you fucking ready. You know, I wasn't ready to have a kid at 23. Absolutely not. Guess what? Life humbled me really fucking quick. You know? So I don't set New Year's resolutions personally. I think I set those throughout the year, and I think I'm pretty good at making sure that I get through those as best as I can. And to me, those are just goals. And I keep my goals coming often. So, or I keep the goals. I set my goals often that matter to me and what should be something that I'm trying to obtain. So, if you have a New Year's resolution, good for you. But I think a lot of people fail at those. I mean, you can just look at gyms, right? Every fucking year, January 5th, the gyms are full of a bunch of people. But the real gym heads are like, get off my fucking squat bar, you know, my squat rack. Get off my bench, you know what I mean? Like, they're just tired of people there that are there for the New Year's resolution that they know by March they're going to be gone. So if you're serious about some shit, I guess what I'm saying is don't be about it. You know, don't talk about it, be about it. You know what I mean? So it's just a time frame, man. You can choose a time to be a badass at any given time in your life and rise up and start to do that. So I don't set them personally. I'm not knocking people who do, especially people who make them happen. So, but I'm just saying, me personally, I don't understand them. What is my opinion on white people who dress as cholos and cholas? That's a funny question. I genuinely don't really care. Take a drink. This drink real quick. Happy New Year's, everybody. Excuse me. I don't know. I don't care. I'm so like cholas and cholas. Like, if you're upset about a white dude or a white girl, it's gonna be a chola, dude. I don't even know. I don't even know where to go. I don't even know where to go with that. Shout out to all my fools out there for sure. But that's kind of a question, borderline, that goes like with appropriating culture, right? So appropriating culture is so stupid to me. I mean, there's been a bunch of videos of people that go after like white girls with dreads, like, you're fucking appropriating my culture, or like white people running around with fucking sombreros on and fucking hats on, and you know, screaming and having taco parties, like, you're appropriating my culture. Like, I'm glad they are. That means they fucking, dude, the ultimate form of flattery is the ultimate form of like someone like looking up to you is flattery, right? Like, thank you, appreciate that. But appropriating culture has gone way too far in this country. Like, I had read a while back about a white girl who was attacked, a young white girl in college who was attacked by women of color because she said you're appropriating our culture because she was wearing dreads. And what's crazy about that is, like, dreads have been worn by like the Vikings and other white cultures for like way before this was even a thing. So like, I don't know, where do you go with that? To me, it's like a question saying like, should we have fucking 80,000 genders? No, it's just I don't care. I'm flattered if a abuelita wants to be a chola, dude, throw on those Cortezes, baby girl. Put on that blue rag, you know what I mean? Come hang out with the homies. But when it's time to get down, you got to be down with the brown. No fucking, you can't be ratting out either. Just saying. This is a silly one. I don't even know why this is a question. I probably shouldn't read this, but I'm reading it because, by the way, the girl asking this is like really extremely attractive. I don't know why she has to deal with this, but why do I'm not going to read that. I'll read it. Okay. Why do some women leave their tampons and pads on the floor in public restrooms? That's a fucking gross one. And I think human beings, by nature, for whatever reason, not all human beings, but a lot of us are fucking disgusting individuals, and I'll tell you why. So the person who asked this, I can tell you the equivalent from a man perspective. I used to do a lot of dirt bike riding when I was younger. I loved dirt bikes. I used to go out to Pismo, Glamis, all kinds of places, have a fucking great time. It was a big part of my life. But when we go out to Glamis, there's no like, you don't go out there intense. I mean, you take a trailer out there, you take an RV out there, and you camp or whatever, but you don't want shit. You don't want people, you got 5 fools in your trailer. You don't want people shitting in your RV. So you go to the outhouses to go take a shit in the morning, right? So, but every time I would go to an outhouse out there and I had to go to the bathroom first thing in the morning, some asshole would shit right in front of the RV, right in front of the toilet on the ground. So you go to, there'd be outhouses out there in the middle of the desert. And if you guys don't know what Glamis is, look it up. There's like, I don't know, I want to say thousands or hundreds of thousands of people out in the desert, man. It's amazing. It's on the border of California, Mexicali, Mexico. It's huge dunes. It's something if you never experienced it, it's an absolute experience you should experience once in your life. But we would tow trailers out there, but we were like, nah, well, you're not gonna drop a number two. You're gonna drop a deuce or a number 2 in our trailer. So just take your bike, ride your dirt bike over there to the outhouses and do your business. But you go to the outhouses, and every one of them, every time I was there, somebody took a shit in front of the toilet. So meaning in front of the toilet, like the toilet where you would sit down, maybe 5 or 6 inches away from the toilet on the ground where your feet would be at. They would take a shit, so you couldn't put your feet down. I don't know. Human beings are fucking disgusting. So to answer your question, human beings are fucking gross. And I think when there's no laws, I think people like that live in those realms, people are just gross. People are gross. And that's why we have laws. That's what we have. That's why America is a nation of laws, because people are fucking gross and disgusting. It's the only way I can answer your question. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, go to any fair on a fucking Sunday in the summertime when things are open and everyone's drinking and partying. The fucking outhouses are disgusting. People are fucking gross, man. People have no respect for anything, and that's why we are a nation of laws. That's the only way I can look at it, because that's a perfect example of the human animal being an animal without having any kind of restraint. So, anyways, gross. This one's a good one. I'm trying to read this right. Talk about how bullshit it is for free money to be sent to a bunch of people who ain't doing shit, but the frontline workers only get a fucking coffee. That's a good one, man. This comes from somebody I know. And I think what he's saying is like, it's bullshit that a bunch of people out there getting checks for like, $600 or whatever else is going to come out there. It's still kind of up in the whims of like, it's going to be 2,000 or 600. We know that 2000 was shot down. I don't think that's the end of it. I think what's happening is they're going to shoot it down because the Democrats are going to pass it in the next few weeks to get more money. But yeah, it sucks because we are really, really, really forgetting about the frontline workers. I mean, the frontline workers are fucking everything, man. I mean, when I say frontline workers, I'm talking about everything from somebody working at the gas station to allow you to pay for your gas, to the guy at the taco stand, to somebody at Target, to somebody at Starbucks, to somebody who is risking their fucking lives in a COVID positive unit in a hospital as a nurse. Like, those people, a lot of them make more money than you can make to get that $600 or that $2,000, hopefully at some point. And they don't get shit but a free coffee. What he's talking about is Starbucks offered free coffees to all frontline workers. And at least, the way I can look at this, at least, if I can answer this properly, in my opinion, or if I can try to, is at least Starbucks as a private corporation offered something. Because if they offered that to the entire nation, I don't know if they did to globally, but they did do nationally. If they offered that to the entire nation, that could potentially be millions of dollars of free coffee. You know what I mean? So that's better potentially than what these fucking people are not offering these workers. I mean, I think frontline workers should get something more. These people have been risking their fucking life since the beginning of this thing. They should be given more. Shout out, by the way, much love, respect, and absolute admiration, adoration, just appreciation and thank you to those people that are working in hospitals, that are working in ERs, and I'm not talking about just doctors and nurses. I'm talking about the Mexicans who are cleaning beds. I'm talking about the Latinos who are cleaning up and swapping shit off the ground after somebody died. I'm talking about the people, everybody who's a frontline worker. We forget about all those people, man. So to answer your question, I guess it sucks if they don't get more. The federal government should be shipping them lots of fucking money and a thank you. And they really are our heroes during this time. And I appreciate you. And I just want to tell you guys that I absolutely 100% respect you, appreciate you, thank you. If somebody's not else telling you that, I fucking love you, man. Appreciate you. It's a rough time, and you guys are on front. You just can't deny what you guys are doing for society. So thank you. All right, moving on to the next one. How to flirt 101. I don't know. I think flirting. I think you either have it or you don't. Me, I'm a big flirt. I was born kind of a flirt. I think. I don't know. When I say flirt, it's just because I'm a talkative kind of social person. I don't think I'm like overbearing flirt. Maybe I am. I don't know, but I don't think you can kind of learn that. I think it's kind of just a natural thing. Older women dating young men. Whatever. Get yours, boy. If you're young, you got an older chick, get that cougar. You know what I mean? Cougars will cook you breakfast in the morning, bro, and they'll ask you to leave. They don't want you around. They're smart. They're like, hey, I got mine. Get yours, eat, and be gone. If you're a young dude dating a cougar, get yours. Let's see what else is on here. I don't know what that is. I'm just trying to read them, guys. Sorry, there's a bunch of people who don't know how to spell sometimes, so I'm trying to make do with what I got here. How to deal with two moms. How to deal with two, so I'm trying to make sense of this. How to deal with two moms. Lots of laughs. My mother, my mom, and the in-law. Well, if you got two moms telling you ain't doing shit right, and one of them ain't yours who birthed you, maybe you're the problem. Just saying. Let's see it per question. We're gonna move on. This page is bad. Oh, here we go. This is a good one. The struggle of growing up without any positive role model figures for both men and women. For men. That struggle is a real struggle. I've talked about that multiple times, and I keep saying it. For those of you that are raising young boys who don't have a father figure in their life, we know statistically now, we know with facts and backed up data that like boys need a male figure to kick them in the ass at some age. You know what I mean? Like, I do see a lot of women often on Instagram, and again, I use that as data just because there's so many people I have that use as data that are really babying their sons, and they're really telling them like, you got to be soft, and you got to be this, and you got to be that. And the reality is the pendulum swings, right? So like there was a really hardcore time for like a few generations where like men were really fucking alpha fucking pieces of shit, and they were just like destroying society in a sense, and that's what people think. But the opposite of that is men being really feminized. And then you have like school shooters and shit like that too. So again, women, you got to find a really good role model in your son's life. If you're a single mom, please, by all means, there's like the Big Brother project out there, which I'm actually considering really getting involved in and being like a big brother, because there's boys out there who need men to teach them what a man is like, what a man means to be. You can't coddle and baby and bubble wrap a little boy for his entire life, because if you do, when those emotions and testosterone and that kind of stuff kicks in his life, he's not going to have it anymore. So boys can't live off the tit their entire life. There has to be a point in their life where you got to let them go, and you got to let them go be a man, and let them go do what they got to do. Let them make mistakes, let them get hurt, let them do all those things that men have to do to understand what it's like to be a man. We can't continue to bubble wrap boys. If we do, it's dangerous. You guys, just look at school shootings. Look at all those boys. Almost all of them had no father in their life. Almost all of them were babied and treated like fucking little princesses. We can ill afford to continue to do this. So, the struggle with that is, and I said it before and I'm going to say it again, after the age of like 8 or 9, you need a positive male figure in their life, whether it's a brother, an uncle, a godfather, what we call in the Latino community, a Nino, a big brother from some big brother organization, something. They need somebody to teach them how to be a man. They need somebody to kick them in the ass and tell them that's not okay. Sure, you can be upset. Sure, you could be angry, but you can't be a bitch about it. And that's the real walkie-talkie. And we have to. I genuinely worry about the next few generations. I really do. And I'm going to leave it at that. And you who sent this in, I know who you are. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I would absolutely love to talk to you about your situation. Oh, the one sibling that don't take care of their kids is always out and about. I don't know. That sibling's probably an asshole. It's probably going to continue to be an asshole. It's probably not ever going to be a good parent. However, since you're I'm not going to say the gender here, but if you're a tia or a tío and you're in that situation, I truly believe that you should step up and be the person that helps out that kid, because let's be real here. There are certain people in this world who should not and well, let me take a step back here. I don't know how serious or deep in your situation is when it comes to that. Mine was pretty bad, but let's say it this way. There are certain people in this world who should not be allowed to have kids. They just are incapable of putting anything other than themselves before themselves. So, it's weird. I mean, we have to take tests to do all these crazy things in life, like drive and whatever else, to do simple shit that puts other people's lives at jeopardy. But there's nothing that says, hey, to be a parent, you should do X, Y, or Z. And I'm not saying we should have that, because we can't tell people who shouldn't have kids. It's just an example of anyone can have a fucking kid. The dumbest, most inconsiderate, evilest person in this fucking world can have a kid. And if you're in that situation, and I'm not saying that's your situation, but if you have a sibling who doesn't want to take care of their kids and you're taking care of them for them, then step up and be that person to take care of those kids, because those kids fucking need you. You know what I mean? Those kids absolutely need you. I guess that's the way I could say that. All right, moving on. Why do men lie and cheat? I already covered that in the previous podcast. I think both men and women lie and cheat. Dream interpretation. There's a lot of dream interpretation, and there's a lot of crazy dreams that we all share. For instance, every one of us has that moment where we're falling asleep and then we all feel like we fall and then we wake up and we're all scared. A lot of people have that dream where they're losing their teeth. I've had that before. That means something too. There's a lot of crazy dream interpretation out there. But however, this is like dream interpretation to me is kind of like the same thing about like religion. Like, sure, every religion can tell you what's going to happen to you after you die. But ain't none of one of those motherfuckers who are telling you that ever died before. So how do you know? So I think the dream world and the dream mindscape is way deeper than we give it credit for. I don't have an answer for you because I'm not an expert there. But that is something to really look into. There are definitely people who will tell you. But again, there's people everywhere trying to make a buck off of something. Like there's a bunch of tarot card readers today who have no idea what the fuck tarot is about. For instance, like, oh, I read your tarot cards and this is your thing going on right now, and I feel your grandma's presence. And like, now there's a bunch of fucking rubes out there that are just fucking taking money, and they're, you know, just I would look into an expert for that. I'm not an expert on that, but I can tell you that I believe that some of those things mean something. Have we gotten to the point where we can decipher what that is? I would look into science more than I would somebody who's like a fucking tarot card reading kind of person. That's fucking ridiculous. I'm not saying all tarot cards are wrong or bad. I'm just saying there's a lot of people out there today who are like, I read tarot. They have no idea, like, the hermetic connection to tarot. They fucking just don't even know. And I don't know. I'm just barely learning. So, look at signs is what I would say. Um, wow, this is a good one. What legacy do you want to leave? I've never really thought of that. My legacy, this is coming from a friend who I respect very much. I won't give up your name or how I know you, but I appreciate the question. My biggest legacy, I think, would be trying to stop the generational traumas that have existed in my family for a long time. I don't know if I'm going to be successful with that, just because not necessarily to do with me, but more his mom's side. But I'm doing my damn best to kill the traumas that happened to me in my generation in my life. And I can say this, I've been pretty fucking successful. If I am 90% successful in my life of killing the generational traumas that existed in my family bloodlines on both sides, or on one side rather, then I've left my legacy, and that's all that matters to me. Because that little piece of my life, my son going forward, he is my beacon of life. He is my reflection in this world going forward. If I can give and kind of reflect that onto him, so that when he goes through his life and he has kids or he has a family or whatever he decides to do with his life, just dealing with others and whatever else, then I did my job here. You know what I mean? It's the butterfly effect, right? Every little thing you do is a butterfly effect to everything else. So if I had a legacy, that would be it, man. I'm not a big dreamer. You know what I mean? And here's the deal. The butterfly effect is, it's just like compound interest, right? So like, if I give that to my son and he does that with 10 of his friends, then those 10 friends do it with 10 of their friends and 10 other friends and 10 other friends. And that shit just it just continues to compoundly, exponentially grow. So yeah, I mean, I guess that would be my thing. You know, if I die tomorrow and 5 people's lives were changed by what I said or what I did, then that's my legacy, man. I'm not shooting too high, but I know that those people will continue through generations and generations and generations. That's all that matters. As long as I left this earth better than it was when I came into it, then that's my legacy. Alrighty. Let's see here. Who inspires me the most? I would have to say my parents. I'm lucky. I'm blessed. I would have to start with my mom. While I be cracking a lot of memes and jokes on Instagram about, you know, women and shit today because women are fucking wild. And let's be honest, man. If we're having an honest conversation, they are. If I had to say a person, the one person, it would be my mother. My mother's amazing, man. She's absolutely amazing. She's endured so fucking much. The amount of people that have respect and love for that woman is overwhelming. I will never have that in my life. Even as much as I try, I would never have that in my life. She just garners love from a lot of people, and it's because she gives so much to a lot of people. It's because she really is a beacon of light to a lot of people. It's because she really is somebody that people look up to and go, oh man, she's awesome. And I'm really blessed in that aspect, you know? When I post memes and shit about women, it's because I was raised, just so you guys know, I was raised by one of the baddest, I'm not baddest, I'm not going to use today's terms, one of the most amazing, educated, driven, loving, caring, but I'll kick you in your ass fucking kind of woman. And I just will not settle for less. And so to me, society today, the pickings out there when it comes to women today is very slim. I'll be honest. And that upsets you, it's okay. You know, I have my opinion. We all have opinions, or just like assholes, everybody has one, right? However, I'm coming from data. I'm really, really, really blessed to have an amazing mother. And she married a man who is my stepfather. He's an amazing man. I could never, ever, 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 ever hold a candle of light to the amount of stuff this man has in him, built in him. He's an amazing man. I'll put this on record by saying that, you know, my dad was in my life until I was about 10 or 11 years old. And then my mom left him because he was abusive and an alcoholic. And my stepdad came into my life, and he's been there ever since. And my stepdad's been in my life now for 30 years or so. He raised me. He taught me how to drive. He's never turned his back on me. If my real dad were to die, I would be beside myself for a minute because it's my dad and he was in my life for a while and he did teach me fatherly things, you know. But he was also abusive and disrespectful to my mother. But if my stepdad passed away, I would lose my fucking mind. That's how much I love that man. So I've been blessed to have an amazing mother and an amazing stepfather who raised me. My stepdad is my dad. That's my son's grandfather. My son has no idea. I'm sorry. My son knows he has my real dad as his grandfather, but he's only met him once, and my son was a baby pretty much. But to my son, my stepfather is his grandfather. That's his grandfather. We don't even talk about him as his grandfather. I don't even, you know what I mean? That's his grandfather, like, you know? So those are the people who inspire me the most, man. They're hardworking. My stepdad came here from Mexico to provide something for his kids, and he's now a successful business owner. He's busted his ass. My mom has been a hardworking. When women say they're independent and they're this and they're that, sure. But guess what? My mom did it all without asking for any fucking praise. She never once said, I'm independent, I'm strong, I'm a survivor, I'm not going to take it. She never did any of that shit. She just did it. She didn't ask for a golden star. She put herself through college as a single mom with 2 kids. She was pregnant, married and pregnant at 16. I'm married at 15, pregnant at 16, or had a kid at 16, had me at 21. Never asked for the prize, didn't ask to be praised for all that shit. She just did it. And to me, that's a fucking absolute example of a badass woman. So, call it what you want to call it, but me, I have good examples of women, and that's just my mom. We start talking about my tias and my aunts and my Nina, like my Nina Pita, for instance, Guadalupe, Maria Guadalupe, we call her Pita. I call her Nina, obviously, but she's like my second mom. Another, you can't even hold a candle of light to the badassness that she is. I was raised by badass women. That's why I don't accept this cheesy ass, corny ass shit that we call women today. I'm sorry, you shake your ass all you want on Instagram. It's not appealing to me. I was raised by badass women. Just talking about my grandmas. My grandma Rosie, you kidding me? Beat your ass. You're a badass woman. Real fucking women. Solid ass women. So those are, if I could say, this is funny because everyone thinks like, I'd be talking shit on Instagram, but who inspires me is women. Absolute women. Badass women. Respectable. Strong. Didn't ask for no fucking praise women. Just did what they had to fucking do to take care of their families and raise their kids. Those people, those women inspire me. And I'm humbled and appreciative and absolutely thankful that I had those women in my life. And I don't, a lot of women like that, they exist today, but there's not that many. There's very few of them today like that. And if you think I'm kidding, just message me and I'll tell you their stories, and you'll be mind blown. So, I'm not negating anyone's experience in life. I'm just saying I was raised by some badass fucking women. That's a dumb one. See, dumb questions by friends. Thoughts from the Torta Whisperer about butt sex, bro. Just use lube, bro. Don't be mean. At least spit on it. Let's see here. I have what to talk about on my date. What to talk about on my date besides kids? Here's the deal. If you are looking to date a man that you want to be a partner and you want to be a part of your kid's life, in other words, if you're a single mom and you're dating, unless you're dating just to get fucked and have fun, then you should be dating to have a serious relationship. And if you're dating to have a serious relationship, you should be dating for somebody who is going to be a potential partner who's involved in your kids' lives. And if they're not, then that's probably not the right person for you. So there's no problem with talking about your kids. Talk about your kids. Talk about them all the fucking time if you have to. However, also let the person know that they're special. So there's something that single moms do a lot of that is, this is some information for single moms. If I'm dating a single mom and we go on a date, and all she does is talk about her kids and lets me know that her kids are first and foremost, and that's all that matters to her, and blah blah blah. Like, I know that she wants to think that that's super attractive and everything else, and it is. There's nothing better and more sexy in this world than a good mom to me, especially in my situation with being a full-time single father now for almost 8 years. There's nothing more sexy and attractive than that. But if I feel like I could never have a potential place in your life that matters, that's also a bad thing. So, like, men need to feel special too. Women love to feel special. They love to feel special. They love to feel special. But they forget that men love to feel special too. So it's not that your kids shouldn't come first. It's that you should find a good way to convey to that person that these are my kids. They come first. But babe, you're next. And you're everything. Other than, you know what I mean? So in other words, like, men have to feel special too. Because you can turn a man off for sure. I've dated women who were like, they were too much about their kids. It was almost weird. It was kind of like, you're kind of gay over your kids. This is kind of weird. Like, I get it. No, of course, I know as a man, like, I think you should know that me as a man, as a father, as a single father, that, like, I know my son comes first, bitch, over you, but I'm not going to make you feel like you don't mean nothing. You know what I mean? So a lot of women today that I've dated, actually, and I could say not a lot of women, but the women I've dated in recent times, like, they're so about their kids, it's almost a turnoff. Like, and when I say so about their kids, let me rephrase that. They talk about their kids as if that's it. And like, you will never get to the point of the love that I have for them. We already know that. But you don't have to tell us that time and time again. Like, I know that. I'm a single full-time dad. Bitch, you're never going to come close to me and my son's relationship. Like, this is my son. I love him. But I'm going to make you feel like an important woman. I'm going to make you feel like you're my woman. I'm going to make you understand that you are everything in my life aside from that. That's a different kind of love. It's a different thing. So learn to separate those two things, but also learn to make your man feel special. If he doesn't feel special, it's not going to last long, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like guys like to feel loved and cared for too. We like to feel special. That just is what it is. All right, moving on to some other questions. Let's get to see what's here. I actually wrote some notes down for this one just because I know it's going to be I felt like it was going to be a long podcast. Excuse me, guys. Sorry to chew the ice on the mic. What do you think about conspiracies? This is a deep one, man. This is one I actually could talk about for a really long time. I started with conspiracy stuff before it was cool, before the internet was even cool. I'm talking like 20 years ago. I was reading books like The Biggest Secret by David Icke, Rule by Secrecy by David Mars. I'm a big reader, so everyone thinks like, oh man, you're smart and blah, blah, blah. No, I just read a lot, and I just regurgitate shit that I read. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, you know. I'm not smart at all. I read shit. But, you know, there's a lot of conspiracies out there that people just forgot about. Like, the JFK conspiracy is a good one, right? Like, oh, JFK got shot, and there was all this crazy stuff that happened, and it was the delay, Dallas, it was a delay plaza, I think. In any case, if you really look into like JFK's assassination, like, there's a lot of really iffy shit. Like, one of the bullets was super pristine. What I mean pristine is like the bullet came out of the gun and never touched anything, but somehow ended up on his gurney. His gurney meaning when his body was dead and they were taking him out of there, someone dropped a pristine bullet on the gurney to try to account for like additional bullets. If you've ever seen a bullet hit any kind of animal, if you've ever hunted, shot a bullet, like, you know that bullets get really deformed really quickly. There's a bunch of crazy weird shit about that. But aside from JFK, the one kind of conspiracy theory that drives me fucking absolute ape shit that people don't pay attention to, which is way bigger than his when it comes to the shadiness involved, was his brother Robert F. Kennedy. So if you guys have ever heard of Bobby Kennedy or Robert F. Kennedy, he was assassinated in Los Angeles in a hotel. He was assassinated by a guy called Sirhan, who was like this Pakistani or Palestinian. I can't remember, but I think it was Palestinian or Pakistani rather. Palestinian guy who really had no rhyme or reason to kill him. It's just some weird shit that happened. And he was in like this kitchen area in this whole town out in Los Angeles. And like, he was shot 8 times. It was, here's where it gets weird. So Robert Kennedy. Like, if you don't know anything about the Kennedys, look into their backlife. By the way, the Kennedys, the reason why they became rich and powerful is because they were part of the Prohibition. So they were basically drug dealers. They were alcohol dealers, which is like drug dealers back then in the 20s. So think of like our 20s now. It's just getting crazy and locked down, whatever. You can't be at a restaurant. So they had like speakeasies and all kinds of crazy stuff. The Kennedys were very, very powerful because of their drug dealing. Drug dealing mean alcohol dealing during the Prohibition. If you know what Prohibition was, at one point in time in the 20s in America, you couldn't buy alcohol. It was illegal. Alcohol was like buying heroin or like buying any kind of drug that's illegal today. So they became very, very powerful. It's an Irish family, but JFK was assassinated. JFK was the older brother who's the president. Bobby Kennedy, his younger brother, who was running for, I believe, vice president or president at the time, he was assassinated. Both of them had a lot of really kind of shady past and dealings with a lot of people. Everything from the mafia to Cubans and to like, you know, Cuban trying to like fight Fidel Castro at the time. They both had a lot of really shady dealings. But anyways, Bobby Kennedy was assassinated by a guy named Sirhan. All the videos and drawings and forensic like stuff that was done show Sirhan in front of him shooting him. He was shooting with a 22 revolver, which a 22 is a very tiny bullet, right? And that revolver only had 8 rounds in it. So you can only shoot 8 rounds in that revolver. Revolver is not like a gun with a clip in it. You can only have 8 rounds in it. It's a fixed number of rounds. So 8 rounds means 8 shots, 8 bullets. And Bobby Kennedy's, for all the evidence shows that he was shot from behind multiple times. And that's how he died. However, what's nutty about that is LAPD and a few other forensic people that were there, including the FBI and other people, documented 13 shots. There was 13 holes in the wall and holes in people. So how can a revolver with 8 rounds shoot 13 rounds? You just can't. So when it comes to conspiracies, dude, there's fucking conspiracies out there for sure. That's one of them that we just overlook and kind of just happened because his brother, who was a president, took way more kind of like took a front seat to that. You know, we just forgot about Bobby Kennedy's assassination. Not only were the 13 holes found, but I believe it was the LAPD. They removed doors and tiles that accounted for the additional 5 shots and then burned them, incinerated them. That's evidence. They destroyed evidence, right? Like somebody else was shooting in that room pretty much, you know? And then they even brought in acoustic evidence, acoustic engineers that, because there was cameras in that room when it happened, and pictures and stuff that would be taken. And there was audio rather, because they were recording audio for the news stations and stuff. I think he'd just given a speech in that hotel. And in the acoustic evidence that was recorded, you can hear 13 shots. It's like clap, 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 like 13 shots. So if you're going to tell me that Bobby Kennedy was assassinated by Sirhan just for some weird Palestinian dude for no reason, like, no, there's a whole bunch of evidence too that points to him being like a Manchurian candidate. If this stuff sounds crazy to you, just Google some of the stuff. Manchurian candidate means like the CIA did a bunch of studies, I think it was in the 60s and 70s, around how to turn a person into like a human fucking robot, pretty much, like a zombie, and to do whatever you want for you. There was even this idea of this girl with a polka dot dress, and Manchurian candidates get ticked off by like a visual. Like it could be like a red flag or whatever. Like it could be like a painting on the wall that has some weird insignia in it. Like, and everyone thinks like the polka dot dress is who like kicked off the Manchurian candidate. There's a whole bunch of crazy stuff. In any case, his murder, his assassination, absolutely does not add up. And I implore all you guys to look into it. Just Google Robert F. Kennedy and look into 13 shots. Just Google 13 shots. Google, shot from behind, not front, that kind of stuff. It'll blow your mind. I mean, this is stuff that like today you couldn't get away with. You could not get away with that stuff today. But again, I say that full well knowing that I'm full of shit because Epstein, right? Think of Epstein. Epstein was murdered in his jail cell, and the cameras were turned off, and supposedly the guards were asleep. That guy was fucking taking every rich, powerful person around the world and screwing little girls, and somehow he ends up dead in one of the highest maximum security prisons. So they've been pulling the wool over our eyes as citizens for a long time, and making these things just go away. Robert F. Kennedy is a great example of that. Epstein is a great example of that. So other conspiracies, 100%, man. Other conspiracies I could talk about, Vietnam. This is a big one to me because Vietnam was very, it was parallel with what happened in 9/11, right? So 9/11, we ran into Iraq. We got bombed by a bunch of people, Muslim terrorists that were from Bin Laden's group and Al Qaeda. And a lot of those people that came here that did that were from Saudi Arabia. And that was, Bin Laden recruited those people because he wanted America to know, fuck you trying to save oil money out here in Saudi Arabia and trying to use them as a springboard to control the Middle East. And it was just kind of like a flex pretty much, right? And it reminded me of like when 9/11 happened. Right after that, we went into what did we do next? We went into fucking Iraq. We went to Afghanistan and then Iraq. Why did we even attack Iraq? Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. Iraq had nothing to do. We just used 9/11 as a reason to go into Iraq and get rid of Saddam Hussein. That's not a conspiracy. That's absolutely fact. We know, and the reason why we went in there is because Colin Powell, again, Google this stuff. If you're young and you don't know this stuff, Colin Powell was saying that we have weapons of mass destruction there. Now, weapons of mass destruction were discovered in Iraq. The common knowledge that's spread out there today from the news is it wasn't. There was weapons of mass destruction. However, we thought he had nuclear weapons and other stuff and biological weapons and a bunch of stuff. He didn't. He had weapons of mass destruction means he could have killed 1,000 people, but not like dropping a nuclear bomb in America. He was not going to drop any kind of biological weapon here, but he did have weapons of mass destruction. They were not what they told us they were, though. They made it sound like he had these crazy biological weapons that he can just completely just decimate entire Los Angeles, in 5 minutes. And that's not what it was. So the Vietnam War reminded me a lot of 9/11 and Iraq. And the reason why is because if you haven't heard of this, and again, I employ everybody who's listening to this, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, when it comes to conspiracies, look into the Gulf of Tonkin. The Gulf of Tonkin is the reason we use as America to get involved in the Vietnam War. And keep in mind, war is money. Our biggest racket is war. All you people out there who got a $600 check and they get the $2,000 check, why? Because they're busy spending on the defense budget to create robots. If you haven't watched the robotic video I put on my Instagram, go watch it. You'll see where your money is going. It's not going into your pocket. The reason why they couldn't give you that money is because a huge part of that bill is for the defense budget. That $2,000 bill, just so you know, was tied to the defense budget. It was shot down because they want to give more money to the defense budget before they put it through. It'll probably never go through in the way it is. It'll probably go through as a defense budget, but you're not going to get money out of it. And that's because there is trillions of dollars going to the defense budget. That's everything from creating robots to drones to robotic army fucking people like Clone Wars, Star Wars style stuff to buying airplanes and jets and everything else to conduct war. That defense budget is huge. So if you don't know about how we make money in America, it's through war. And so the Gulf of Tonkin, Vietnam, if you're not familiar with this, it was what we call like a false flag operation, right? False flag meaning that we go and do something, or we go and say something happened, even though it didn't happen, just so that we can get involved in the war. War is money. Again, invest when there's blood in the streets. I said that earlier in this podcast. Keep listening. So we said during the time, Vietnam, we had already been involved with it. We had already had soldiers there, but we weren't officially involved as a war. I mean, it was never officially a war, by the way. It was a policing action, I think is what they called it. But we had already had a bunch of soldiers there, but we needed a reason for the American public to get behind it so that we can send more, right? And so we went and said during the Gulf of Tonkin is a Gulf out there. We had destroyer ships out there. If you're not familiar with like Navy ships, destroyer is a smaller class ship that can protect things like aircraft carriers and that kind of stuff. We said that the North Vietnamese army, who was our enemy at the time, attacked one of our destroyer ships and shot torpedoes and ammunition, machine gun fire at it. And it just came out, I think it was 2001 or 11. I can't recall the exact date. Don't hold me accountable for that. But NSA, so the National Security Association, which is like basically like really high up there when it comes to security in our country, they finally released the evidence saying that actually that never happened. We just said that happened so that we can get ourselves in war in Vietnam. So we lied to the world about an attack that happened to our ship so that we can get involved in a war to make some money. And in that war, 47,000 Americans died. 47,000 Americans died in combat. Over 600,000 North and South Vietnamese. By the way, North was our enemy. South was our friends when we were fighting the North. But 600,000 of their soldiers died in combat, right? So 47,000 plus of our own Americans died in combat. 600,000 of their soldiers died combined. And over 1.3 million... I'm sorry, I'm taking it back. 600,000 civilians, not soldiers, civilians. So that's people like you and I sitting in our house eating brunch on a Sunday died. Civilians, not just soldiers. A total of 1.3 million people died in that war. And we lied about it. If you're going to tell me that's not a conspiracy, that's a fucking conspiracy. Somebody conspired to do something wrong and got us into a war, and 1.3 million people died. 47,000 Americans lost their life in combat. And 600,000 Vietnamese civilians, both North and South, lost their lives. It's fucking crazy. It's insane. Those are conspiracies. I'll give you another one that's insane. The one conspiracy that absolutely blew my mind. And I remember watching this. I remember when I found this, and I played this. It was my one of my best friends, and he passed away. Man, he rest in peace. I love you, man. And I will never fucking forget the look on his face and what he told me that day. I said, hey, let me put this in now. I need you to watch this. And we sat down and we cracked open a beer. I think I was like maybe, I don't know, I'm 41 now. I think I was like 20 or 19, 20 years old. And I said, look, man, no, I'm sorry. I was like 21, 22. I said, let me put this video in for you. Check this shit out. And I popped in the video, and the video's name, everyone should Google this, just so you know the crazy shit that's out there. It's called Dark Secrets Inside the Bohemian Grove. And this is by a guy that everybody knows now and thinks he's fucking insane, because he is. He fell in love with the fame. But this is from Alex Jones. This is Alex Jones's first work that I became familiar with over a decade, almost 2 decades ago. When I first saw this, I was blown away, and it actually made me feel really uneasy. It made my stomach kind of knot up, and realize that this is real shit out there. There's some real shit out there that we don't know about, that the average human being in the world has no idea about. But there's this small group of people who are powerful, who are strong, who pull the purse strings of like what society is, that are extremely strong. And in this video, Alex goes and hikes into the woods, and he infiltrates this camp called Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Grove is in like middle northern California, and the Bohemian Grove is a place where like all the elite, powerful people in the world come to every few years, and they get together. I'm talking about people like Bill Clinton, George Bush. So you guys think like Republicans and Democrats, like they're fucking really against each other. No, they're not. They're working together. The people that did the Manhattan Project, which is the project that created our fucking nuclear weapons that we used to bomb Japan in World War II. Everybody you could possibly think of, from royalty to powerful people, they get together there on a weekend, and they go through this weird ritual, and they call it the cremation of care. The cremation of care is, and you can watch this, by the way, if you just go YouTube. I swear to God, man, but only do this if you're ready to accept what's real out there. Because if you're not ready to accept it, it's really hard to look at this and go, this is some crazy shit. And it's called the Dark Secrets Inside the Bohemian Grove. Cremation of care is a ceremony they do. And there's a bunch of rich people, right? First of all, they get together, and they do these think tanks, and they kind of discuss like what's going on in the world, what's going to happen. Hey, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. I'm assuming that's what they do because it's insane. And the reason that I was like, holy shit, this is some crazy shit, is they do this ritual where there is Moloch, which is could be depicted by a bunch of different stuff, but it's this huge owl that's like 30 feet tall, right? So you're in this camp. It's the middle of nowhere. No one knows about it other than very wealthy, rich people, and they're invited there. And there's this huge owl that's like 30 feet tall. And then what happens is there's a bunch of like druids behind him, or below him rather, that are in like these robes, and they put this like kind of, I don't know how to describe it, kind of like a carrier that carries his body over to the feet of the owl. And there's a bunch of druids talking about kind of crazy stuff. And the cremation of care, basically what they're doing is they're burning a human effigy. Human effigy means it's a human like figure. They put it at the feet of the owl and they burn it. They're sacrificing this human to this owl. And they're saying this crazy ritual that everybody, obviously in the crowd, because they're screaming and they're chanting and they're all excited about it, know about. Now, I guarantee everyone who's, not everyone, but a lot of people who are listening to this, this is their first time hearing there's a bunch of rich, wealthy, powerful fucking men out there that are conducting rituals that are sacrificing. They're not sacrificing, but they're burning a human effigy, which is like an analog or an example of sacrificing a human kid to this L god. And they're all chanting the same shit, and they're all clapping, and they're all excited, and they're pumped up. And the whole point of this ritual, what it seems like, the cremation of care, is to, if you listen to what they're saying, is to basically cast away everything bad. It's almost like going and confessing to like a Catholic priest, for instance. It's like you're casting away all the bad shit you did, all your sins. So these are men that are conducting wars and politics and global events. And, you know, think about like Clinton, like he ordered a bunch of strikes everywhere. And like, you think about all these people that really have to like conduct global events that absolutely kill people or have the potentiality to kill people. This is some strong shit. And I remember sitting there watching it with my best friend. And I had already watched it once, and this is the first time first time he was seeing it, and he's like, holy shit. And man, rest in peace, man. I'll never fucking, oh man, I love that man. But he's like, he looked at me, he says, holy shit. The stuff we've been reading, it's real. And I said, bro, it's fucking real, man. This is fucking real. Look at this. So if you're going to tell me that conspiracies don't exist, then you could fuck off. Conspiracies exist. They exist in a lot of forms. The ones I'm telling you about tonight are just some of them. There are just a few of them that exist, and they are absolutely fucking insane. So if you want to blow your mind, just go watch that. And it's really grainy because it's old. He went up there with a camcorder in like the late 90s. But this is, you can, there's just go look at it, you know, form your own opinion and understand that it's an old video. It's from like almost 20 years ago, or it is probably 20 years ago. But I was talking about conspiracies 20 years ago. All these stupid ass QAnon folks and all these dumb motherfuckers that are like, you know, talking about, oh, the fucking Illuminati and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And we'll talk, as you guys get to know me more, you'll hear more about the Illuminati, et cetera, in my life, because you'll just hear more about it. But all these dumb motherfuckers out today are stupid. They have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. They really don't. It's just dumb. It's just a bunch of dumb people who don't know what they're talking about. But yeah, please. And if you have any questions about that stuff, man, just message me. I'll feed you some links. There's a lot of crazy stuff. And if you want to read some crazy ass books, The Biggest Secret by David Icke, which I read like 20 years ago. By the way, that book is insane. It talks about like reptilian shapeshifters and a bunch of stuff, but it does have some good stuff in it. And then Rule by Secrecy is a good one. That's David Mars. I can shoot you guys a bunch. I can, off the top of my head, I can shoot you guys a bunch of links to books. This is stuff, by the way, I was reading 20 years ago. So all these dumb young kids that are coming out thinking like they're super smart and they're super woke and they know what's going on. You fucking dummies. They don't even really know how deep the shit goes. So, but anyways, conspiracy theories, bro. I could talk about this shit forever. Maybe I'll just do a conspiracy theory podcast, like the entire podcast, and just do that. You know what I mean? So, all right, the last one, which is one that is a good question, and it's one that actually made me a little bit sad recently. So I did a poll. It says talk about your money versus love poll. I'm gonna take a drink before this one because this one was tough for me for a lot of reasons. So give me a second. All right, so I did a poll on Instagram that said, if you could only choose one, what would you choose? Would you choose financial freedom or love, or true love? And 75% of the people replied with true love. I'm sorry. That's what I would reply with. 75% of the people replied with money, financial freedom. And while I expected that, I was hoping that wasn't going to be the case. And I understand that some of us have been through relationships where we put our all into it or whatever else and then got fucked over. And then, you know, especially there's a lot of females out there who got fucked over and then they were left with nothing. So they had to rebuild stuff and that kind of thing. But my answer to that is, if you're in that situation, don't ever be in that situation, man. Be financially free to begin with before you get in that relationship. I will always, 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 always choose love over money. Money is just a possession that can be rebuilt. If you're a bad enough motherfucker in this world, you can rebuild wealth. The most rich people have won it all lost it all, and then won it again. That's the example of a true rich person, by the way. I have a homie of mine, and if you're listening, homie, you know who you are. I'm thinking about you. There's people out there who had it all, lost it all, and then build it back. That's part of being a badass human, a badass person that can amass wealth. Money is just an object, and you can get it back. If you got it once, you can get it again. And if you can't get it again, then you're a weak bitch. That's the reality of it. So to me, money is nothing. True love is everything. The way I love my son, the way I love my family, it's everything. I will fucking give up all my worldly possessions for me just to be able to love and to be loved in a true fashion. So I was not shocked, but I actually have to admit I was really upset because I was like, man, this many people, and it was overwhelmingly a lot of women. And I was like, man, this is sad. Women are the ones who are supposed to be telling us today that we need love. We need love. Love always wins, right? Isn't that the message we give to people? Like, love always wins? Don't we fucking need love? Doesn't love always win over evil? Isn't love everything? If love isn't everything, then what the fuck do we have? And again, I wasn't shocked. I guess the way I could say this, I was shocked at how much it affected me, because I was like, man, this is where we're at. The love of things has conquered love. The love of things has conquered love. Let me say that again. The love of things has conquered love. And that's fucking sad. That's fucking sad. If there is a bad thing about capitalism, and I'm a capitalist, man. I love to make money. I love to work hard. I love to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to get ahead if they bust their fucking ass. But if there is a problem with capitalism, it's this. I did some research after that, just because I wanted to be like, how much money, I wanted to understand how much money it takes to feel okay, in the sense of like, you're not worrying about your bills. You're not worrying about going out with your family and buying dinner and having to calculate every little thing. Like, you know, I've been lucky. I've not been lucky. Fuck that. I've busted my fucking ass for over 25 years, 23 years now. I've been busting my fucking ass for 23 years now. Actually, you know what? Take that back. Since I was 14. You know what I mean? Since I was 14, I've been busting my ass. But in my particular career right now, for over 21, 22 years, I've been busting my fucking ass to get to where I'm at. So it's not, there's no luck involved. It's hard work to get to where I'm at. I'm financially fucking free because of the amount of work I put into what I do, you know? And I wanted to understand, at what point did I feel I didn't have to worry about money? Because I understand that people feel stressed about money. People feel stressed about things. So that's why they would rather have money than love. But that's also why money is like the biggest argument in relationships that causes fucking divorces. It's fucking insane to me. But I will still choose love over money anytime. And so what I found out is, I looked into some polls and I was like, you know, what amount of money do you have to make before you feel like you're emotionally not connected to money? Emotionally meaning I'm not worried about making rent. I'm not worried about paying my cell phone bill. I'm not worried about money. In other words, money's not in your mind, so you can think about other things. So a lot of people really are out there struggling, worrying about money. And I do get that. I 100% understand that. And I realized that quickly when I did my research, that it's like between $60,000 and $75,000 a year is the amount of money you need to make where you're not worried about money anymore. And that's probably not in California, by the way. California is expensive. Let's just bump that up like 20 grand. But nationally, that's the average, is $60,000 to $75,000 a year, where you're not struggling and worried about money. In other words, you can go to dinner with your family and not have to worry about counting the fucking dollars and cents of whether you can pay for it or not. And that's where you're emotionally disconnected from money. Then the next number up from that I recall was what they call life satisfaction, was $95,000, meaning that like at that point, $95,000, that's where the happiest you're ever going to be. If you make $95,000 as a single person, that's the happiest you will ever be. Anything after that, you're not going to ever be happy financially. So again, fuck money. It's not that $95,000 sounds like a lot. It's really not that much money, especially if you live in California. It's not that much money. And so I started to dig deeper into like how much money you would need. You know, no, I knew how much money you would need to be not worried about it, how much money you would need to be the happiest you could be with it. But then I wanted to know, like, is there a way that you would, is there a time that you would make more money than you should, where it would make you unhappy. And in that same study, the amount was, they said if you made $105,000 a year or more in America, that your happiness levels actually went down. They went down from the 60 to 75,000. They went down from that 95,000. So what I'm saying, people, is please understand, money is not fucking everything. It is a means to the end. It is a means to be able to exist. I understand that. I get that. But if you are basing your life happiness on money, then you're not living life right. And that's probably why you're poor. That's not poor. That's probably why you're not financially independent. Poor is the wrong word to use. Sorry about that. But that's probably why you're not financially independent. Money is not everything. I, as a man, as a human, will choose fucking love over money every time. Every time. 100%. I know what it's like to make good money. I know what it's like to make no money. I remember when I was younger, I was a wild ass kid. Funny, embarrassing story. We used to go to Rosarito all the time when I was between the ages of like 17 and like 21, 20, actually. Be down on Rosarito and TJ all the time, every fucking weekend. I used to post-date checks to have $255. I'd go down to Tijuana to party and blow that money. Posted a check to go blow $255. I know what it's like. And then it took me fucking months and months and months to get caught up to pay that back. I know what it's like to come from nothing. You know what I mean? I know what it's like to be born and raised with nothing. Trust me, money is not it. If you are not doing well financially and you think money is going to solve your problems, I can tell you this. There are many, 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 many studies. Just fucking Google them. Money does not solve your problems and it does not make you happy. Something like 90+% of the people who win the lottery end up fucking miserable. You want to know why? Because you can't give a poor person rich man's money and expect a poor person to do rich man's shit with it. Money is not everything, everybody. And if I'm going to leave off this podcast at the end of 2020, I really, really want to end it this way. I love you all. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for rocking with me this year. You have no idea how much it means to me. But let's learn to love each other some more. Let's learn to give each other love, support, respect. Let's learn to be patient with each other. Let's learn to love, and let's learn to understand that things aren't everything. Things are nothing. Love, relationships are everything. Love and relationships are everything. I'm going to say it one more time, and I'm going to leave it at that. Happy New Year to you all. May 2021 be much better than 2020. Again, fuck the Rona. Fuck all the bullshit we dealt with this year. May love reign superior in 2021. I love you all, man. Thank you very much for rocking with me. You have no idea how much I appreciate you. Thank you.